Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Boink Studios, and check us out on boinkstudios.com, where you can see all of our projects, past, present, and future. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome back to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and this is Tom Clark's Main Event. We're back once again here on Facebook Live. Glad you are with us. We're also recording today. The show will post on YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Subscribe and download today, and please follow the Tom Clark's Main Event Facebook page for more content. Plus, check out our Patreon page for even more cool stuff. This is episode number 176, and yes, we're moving right along here on Facebook Live. I want to thank everyone for joining us here, of course, and for coming back each and every week. Much thanks to Heidi Ryan and the whole crew at Wrestling Rumors for giving us this platform. We do greatly appreciate it. So episode number 175 was The GOAT. We talked about who we believe is the greatest of all time, from wrestlers to factions to even promoters. We had tons of fun, and if you missed it, you missed out. But now we're back with a new topic, and yes, it should be a fun one once again. This time, the main event is the Superstar Dream Match. Hey, what's up? There's the intro. It's out the way. Welcome to the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching live today. It is Friday, May 8th. Again, hello. Hope you are all doing great out there today. To all of you listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and also YouTube, we do very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for hanging out, choosing to spend your Friday afternoon with us. We hope all of you folks are healthy, happy, and safe today. The COVID-19 pandemic is still raging out there. We've got many states beginning to open back up. My home state of North Carolina is going phase 1 today. Someone just said the show was loud, right? Yeah. Adjust your volume, kids. How's everyone doing out there? Hope everyone is doing fantastic. Yeah, we're phase 1 today in North Carolina, and we are hopefully headed in the right direction. We hope that all these states opening back up does not cause the pandemic to grow. We don't want that to happen. So, folks, today, as we did last week, we are doing things a bit differently. My show from day one had a different vibe to it. I hardly ever did the current news. I did sometimes, but most time I would pick one topic, whether it was current, past, or future, or whatever, and I focused the whole episode on that. That's what we're going to do today. We could talk about some money in the bank at the end of the show if you want. That's what you guys really want to do. But in the meantime, as we said before, and in case you haven't read the ticker at the bottom there, this is episode number 176. This is the Superstar Dream Match. That's right, folks. This is our opportunity, your opportunity, to let your voices be heard, as you did last week during the conversation of the GOAT. Who do you think, or what do you think is your dream match? What is the one match that you've never seen? What's the match that you would love to see? We can even talk about matches that are physically impossible to see. We can talk about wrestlers who are no longer with us. We can take someone in their prime from once upon a time and put them against today's stars, or maybe stars of very recently. Whatever you guys want to do, this thing is wide open. Whatever you guys are thinking, we'll go with it. Let's go ahead and hit some of the comments here. Danny says Flair and Michaels. I would say Hogan, but let's be real. Hogan couldn't wrestle, although Flair can make him look good. Flair did work Hogan, but it was not, I don't even know if it was a TV match. They did work in WCW, but it just wasn't the same. It didn't have the same vibe. I'm sure it was a tag match or whatever, and singles matches in WCW. I think Flair worked him 3 times. I think Hogan won every single match, which of course he did, right? Duh. But at that point it was kind of anticlimactic. WCW tried to push it as something monumental, but at that point, how many people really cared about it anymore? To be quite honest with you, I don't know. WWE missed their chance. They had every opportunity in the world to put these two guys against each other, legend versus legend. They chose not to do so for whatever reason. So yeah. What else you guys got? Jamie says Edge versus Aleister Black. Well, that's something that could very well happen. I mean, if that's a current dream match, I get it. I want you guys to think outside the box. Taker versus Sting. Thank you, Tim. I know that we've been talking about that match for years. We've all been thinking about it. Before we go any further, if you listen to the audio version of this podcast, you're missing out. This is a classic 1980s wrestling magazine. This is Wrestling Superstars. And I've got a bit of a lag here on the show, but I'm going to let you check it out. I got a box full of old 1980s pro wrestling magazines. These things are vintage. They're awesome. And this one in particular is very cool. Lex Luger versus Randy Savage, which at one time was a dream match. Lex Luger was NWA/WCW. Of course, Savage was all WWF, what later became WWE, of course. And yeah, so it was... so there you go. Let me get that back over this way. Yep. Can you guys see that good? At the time when I was a kid reading this, it was pretty cool to think about Luger versus Savage because it's something no one had ever seen before. Luger was in Florida before he came up to work for Crockett and the NWA. So, no, these guys had not had a chance to work. And the guy that wrote this story, I mean, basically this magazine, the story writer in question would just lay out, sort of book the match, fantasy book it, I guess you could call it. And... yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Superstar Dream Match: Lex Luger versus Randy Savage. In each issue, wrestling superstars will present a sensational dream match, spectacular battle involving the sport's greatest athletes. It's unlikely this match will ever happen anywhere. Don't count your chickens, folks, except in the pages of this magazine and in the arena of your own imagination. So it's pretty cool. As I said, I grew up with the pro wrestling magazines, Wrestling Superstars, the Superstar Dream Match. Very cool deal. I really enjoyed it. Some of these are really good stuff, actually. Some of these matches did take place. Some of them did not. As Vince bought up the territories, of course, the pro wrestling world shrank incredibly fast. And so all these guys who had never worked each other did get a chance to work each other. So there's that. I've got a few more here to show you. Let's see. Superstar Dream Match, the Road Warriors versus Demolition, which did take place in WWE. I know we got some Demolition fans out there. I'm an old school Legion of Doom / Road Warriors fan. Demolition was the substitute Road Warriors. I don't care what anyone says. That's just the fact of the matter. Let me hold that up where you guys can see it. Isn't that cool? So yeah, I'm a sucker for these things. As I said, I've got a huge box of them in the closet here in my office. Very cool stuff. But yeah, Demolition did face LOD when they were in WWE. So that Superstar Dream Match did actually take place. I'm kind of just setting the stage for you. If you guys are hitting me with suggestions, please feel free to hit them again. I get so many comments on here, man. It's hard to keep up with. Carlos says Macho Man, Hogan, and Ultimate Warrior, and Piper against the Four Horsemen. Ooh, that'd be interesting. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the Horsemen would have bumped like crazy for those four guys. But so you have Macho Man, Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and Piper. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting for sure. Prime Hogan versus Velveteen Dream with NWO attire. So yeah, well, you know, that's a good one, Sandy. To be honest with you. See, Shinsuke versus Tozawa. Was it Hit me with that again, man. Rebecca, hey, how are you? Well, I mean, that if you're talking about the currently, I mean, that could happen anytime. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus AJ Styles. I love that. Punk versus AJ. I think Punk worked AJ, didn't they? Didn't they work each other in Ring of Honor or TNA at some point? I'd be surprised if they didn't. I'm not saying they did, but I get it. I mean, I agree with you. I think that'd be a fantastic match. Jim says, I had that issue. I remember one of the dream matches was Hogan versus Flair versus Martel. That's good stuff. I don't know if I have that one. Demolition did disappear. I mean, you know, Barry Darsow became Repo Man. We don't like to talk about that. Bill Eadie eventually retired. Bill Eadie, of course, mass superstar. So, you know, it is what it is. They were good for their time. They developed to a very good tag team, but they were both very good workers. So, you know, I didn't have an issue with their work in the ring. It was just the fact that Vince couldn't get the Road Warriors, so he made his own. It's kind of what they do. Texas has open restaurants, haircut place. Oh, well, man, we don't even have salons here open for sure. Robbie hits me with Gorgeous George versus Ric Flair. Maybe two similar styles. I don't hate it. But, you know, that's the thing about Superstar Dream matches. You can go in two different directions. You can say, Here's a good one. How about the Young Bucks versus the Rock and Roll Express in their prime? How about that? Too similar, though, maybe. So maybe you say, because they're two white meat babyface tag teams. How about this? The Young Bucks versus the Midnight Express in their prime. How about that? That's good stuff. Midnight Express circa 85, 86, Jim Crockett Promotions. I'm digging that all day long, man. That's pretty good stuff. I think Stan and Bobby or Bobby and Dennis would give Nick and Matt a fantastic match. I think we all know that for sure. That'd be fun. Miss Lopez, how are you today? Magnum TA versus Randy Orton. Shane, I can always count on Shane. Fantastic match. Magnum, old school. God bless, I love that. Magnum TA versus Randy Orton. That's good stuff, man. That's really good stuff. I enjoy that. Really, really good. Let's see. Rock and Roll Express versus the Rockers. What's up, Gary? Gary, we were just saying, man, that some of these dream matches, the styles may be too similar. I love the idea of it, and honestly, didn't Marty and Sean work Ricky and Robert at some point? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. I know Marty and Sean went from AWA to WWE. And Rock and Roll Express were in WWE for like 15 minutes. That was it. They weren't barely there for a cup of coffee, and they were out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it didn't happen. The Rockers versus... How about the Rockers versus the Revolt, formerly known as the Revival? I'd buy that for $1. That'd be fun. Chris Benoit versus Daniel Bryan, match of the same. Yeah, match. See, Mark, there's your point again, brother. To the point again, I should say. Same style, similar style match. I'm not hating it. Don't misunderstand me. But let me throw you an alternative. Daniel Bryan versus Arn Anderson from the Horsemen. That'd be interesting. Similar, but not quite the same. Arn would bump like crazy for him too, right? So, Punk versus AJ happened in ROH. Thank you, James. I thought maybe it did. Charlotte Flair versus Tessa Blanchard. Rebecca, I firmly believe that match is eventually going to happen. So, yeah. CM Punk versus anyone. Okay. Ricky the Dragon versus Bret Hart. Interesting choice. I like that. Two white meat baby. Well, I say white meat baby face, but Bret Hart ran a great heel gimmick. That might work. Yeah, that might work. That might work. I don't hate it at all. I'm digging that. Hello, Gary in Buffalo, New York. Gary, if you're just joining us here on the show, today's topic is the Superstar Dream Match. I want to hear from you. What do you guys think? What's your favorite dream match of all time that maybe did happen? How's about that? We'll throw that out there. One that maybe did happen. One that maybe can't happen because of circumstances. Maybe it's, talents from 1986 versus 2020. Maybe it's talents who have passed away since then. There's nothing's off limits here, folks. Nothing's out of bounds. Just throw me your best dream matches, the things that you would love to see, that you're fantasy booking today. You're the fantasy bookers, folks. It's all up to you. Kerry Von Erich versus Brock Lesnar. Holy cow. Shane. God, Shane's a killer, man. Shane, you're a freaking beast. I'm going to tell you right now, that's good stuff. KVE versus Brock Lesnar. That's interesting. I love it. Kerry can really work. Brock can really work. If Brock doesn't get in there and physically destroy him in 30 seconds, I think it'd be an incredible match. I really believe that. Did Benoit and Dynamite Kid ever go out? Their styles were so similar. Danny, I can't swear that they did or didn't. That's a good thing to YouTube. If any of you are asking questions about this stuff, YouTube it while we're here. Let's talk about it. Danny hits me with Eddie Guerrero versus Great Muta. I'm loving that. Barry Windham versus Dustin Rhodes, I believe did happen, Rebecca. I believe. I cannot swear to that, but I think maybe it happened. Tully and Arn versus the Revival. That's a given, James. Well done. I like that. Rick Rude versus Velveteen Dream. Very similar styles, Mark, but I get where you're coming from. I'm good with that. Sebastian says Young Bucks super overrated. I won't argue with you. That's your opinion, bro. No problem. Earthquake versus Andre the Giant, which I would argue perhaps did it happen at some point. When Earthquake was not Earthquake, he was somebody else, just John Tenta. I could be wrong, but you have to think that those two guys, that they would feed Andre a big guy. You know what I mean? At some point to sort of test him. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Yokozuna versus Abdul the Butcher. And again, a lot of these older but all these older talents, man, these guys may have worked each other at some point. Here's a good one, folks. This is one that did happen at some point, right? Ultimate Warrior versus Ric Flair. But, buddy, at the time, this was a Superstar Dream match for sure. And the good thing about Flair versus Warrior is that Flair would make, first of all, Flair can make anyone look good, for sure. That's who he is. That's what he does. That's what he's done for years, dude. But yeah, for sure. I mean, in the same way that he'd make, well, I can't really compare Warrior to Sting. They're two entirely different guys, right? Just because they were a tag team doesn't mean really anything. The fact they painted their faces, the similarities kind of stop there. They begin and end there because Sting was a workhorse and Warrior was not. God rest his soul. So, yeah. Pretty sure that match did take place in some form or fashion. They crossed paths in WWE. I don't know if they ever had a singles match. But, yeah. Midnight Express versus Street Profits. Rebecca, well done. Michaels versus AJ. Yeah, we were talking about that before, that was a possibility. That AJ teased the crap out of that a couple years ago, right? He really wanted the match to happen. Be interesting. Fabulous Freebirds versus New Day. Shane, that's a given, but it's a good choice. I like that, especially with the classic, vintage Freebirds rocking the stars and bars against New Day. That could have some racially divisive undertones to that feud if they were to have taken place. That would have been something to see, right? Let's see. Ziggler versus Shawn Michaels. I don't know if it. I would guess and say it did, Sebastian. NWO versus DX versus Bullet Club. That's a huge triple threat. Bunch of black T-shirt happening things. Pete Dunne versus William Regal. Very similar in styles, Rebecca. Again, very similar in styles, but I'm not hating it. Miss Lopez saving the day once again. Thank you, dear. Briscoes versus Usos. There's a certain chemistry to that, certain rhyme, a certain fluidity, and I'm loving every stupid second of it. That's awesome. Jane Mark versus New Day. All day. You kidding? That could still happen. Never say never in this business, yes? Daniel Bryan versus Dean Malenko. Yeah, very similar, but yeah, I'm digging it. Owen Hart versus Kurt Angle. Excellent. Fabulous Freebirds versus The Shield. Well done. I do think we'll see Charlotte versus Tess. What's up, Wilf? For sure. DX versus NWO in its prime. Yeah, that's a given. I think that would be one of those, too many egos in the ring at the same time. You'd have to reinforce the ring to be able to hold the weight of all those massive egos at the same time, dude, for sure. You know what I mean? So, but I'm feeling it. Macho Man versus AJ Styles, Jim says. They call you phenomenal, yeah. Terrible. I promise never to do that again. Yeah, I'm loving that. Why not? Macho, an incredible worker. AJ, an incredible worker. Sure. You know what I love about this dream match concept is that you can sometimes you could just throw two names together just off the top of your head, and it'll either really, really work or really, really won't, or maybe kind of will, somewhere in between. But some of these things are genius. I love that idea. Cena versus Hogan could still happen. Don't want to see it. Don't ask me if I want to, because the answer is no. But I would not be surprised. I'm going to be honest with you. Kurt Angle versus Steamboat. Well done again, Shane. Bruiser Brody versus Kane. Ooh, Danny. Battle of the Big Man, brother. I like that. I'm liking that all day. Brody versus Kane. I'd love to see that. Can I throw you a few of my own here? Let me throw you a few. If you're talking about company versus company, you know what I mean? I always thought the Minoru Suzuki versus Brock Lesnar would be amazing to watch. I can't say similar, but they're both killers. And Brock would be the guy German suplexing Suzuki, and Suzuki would get back up. That'd be something to see. And Suzuki would not. I mean, I'm not talking about realistically. He wouldn't bump for him. Of course he would. They have respect for each other, obviously. But Suzuki would give him everything he could handle, and Suzuki would make him work for it. Not, I mean, you see what I'm saying, right? The character, he'd make Brock earn it, right? That'd be something to see. I'd be interested to see that. I think other people have been talking about that for a long time, too. What else? Company versus company. The Gorillas of Destiny. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa from New Japan. Gorillas of Destiny versus, the Revolt. That could still happen, right? Dash and Dawson are free men now. I should say Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, right? There you go. So that'd be something to see. Big Show versus Andre. Yes, sir, Will. That's a given for sure. Brad says Okada versus Benoit. Yeah. Oh, God. Woo. Smoking hot. It's good stuff. Brock Lesnar versus Bruiser Brody. James, another bow of the big man. Excellent. Well done. Lex Luger versus Chris Masters. Shane, that's an interesting deal, man, because I'm going to tell you something right now. Lex gets cracked on a lot. Some of it's well-deserved, if I'm being honest. No disrespect. I shouldn't say well-deserved. Some of it's understandable. How about that? I'll take that back. Some of it's understandable. Lex was not the workhorse that Barry Windham was. Very few people ever could be. But he wasn't terrible. It was just that he wasn't great. The same, I think you could say, of Chris Masters. Shane, I'll give you this, brother. That might be a hard dream match to watch. Can I be honest with you? That might be a tough one. Stan Hansen versus Brock Lesnar. Basically throw any big New Japan guy at Brock Lesnar. I think that's the thing here. Tom Clark versus Sandy. Not me, Sandy. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Where'd I get that from? Michael Jackson. Don't ask. It's a song. Anyway. Okay, Robbie says Steve Blackman versus Brock Lesnar. Martial arts versus MMA style. Interesting. I'm not hating it. Abyss versus Mankind. Jim, a very obvious choice, but it's good on your part. I'm all for that. Let's see. Sting versus Taker. Obviously, yeah, we'd all love to see it. Nikita versus Nikolai. Yeah, I mean, that's a good one, man. Nikolai was good. He was good. He really was. Nikita was better than people give him credit for as well. To be able to go 30 minutes with Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes or whoever in the NWA where you had to work, you had to actually work and be able to compete and be able to hold your own. Yeah, you had to be able to go, dude, or you wouldn't be working for Crockett, honestly. Vader versus Umaga. Well done. That's a good one, too. Hey, tell me this isn't fun. You're lying. You're lying if you say this isn't fun. This is awesome. I'm digging the crap out of this. Booker T versus Shawn Michaels. I don't think it ever happened. I don't think so. It's a good idea. I like it. Diesel versus Drew McIntyre. Yeah, I could see that. Too similar, perhaps. And I don't listen. I don't have an issue with the styles being similar. Don't misunderstand me here, but I think maybe sometimes the contrast in styles makes for a better match. But that's just my own opinion, folks. You can take that or leave it. A good small guy versus a good big guy, that kind of thing. Yeah, Bruiser Brody versus Terry Funk, which Miss Lopez, I can't swear it didn't happen. King Kong Bundy versus Earthquake. Bundy, man, there's a forgotten name from the past, isn't it? Mae Young, Moolah versus Charlotte. Interesting. Nexus versus the Cheer Squad. God help us all. Shamrock versus Lesnar. I think that'd be a given, but I like it. Rollins versus Flair. We're talking about Flair in his prime. Yes, that'd be interesting. Flair would make Seth look better than he's ever looked with anybody else. There's no doubt about that. I have no doubt about that at all. And Seth's really, really good. Don't get me wrong here. But I think Rick would have made him look that much better against him than he would have against anybody else, in my opinion. Sherry Martel versus Charlotte Flair. Danny, excellent. Well done. Again, Charlotte probably would never look as good as she would against Sherry, for sure. The Fiend versus Mankind. I like it. Okay, how about this? The Fiend versus Dusty Rhodes. How you like that? You know what I mean? I mean, you've got that undeniable killer, that beast, the clown. He can't be hurt and stuff. But you've got Mr. Charisma, Mr. Personality, Mr. I can wrestle an hour, not be breathing hard, Dusty Rhodes, who's got a truckload of charisma, a truckload of, like we said, personality and heart, energy, and life about him. Versus the Fiend, that'd be interesting to see. Miss Lopez says Funk versus Moxley. Tell me that John Moxley wouldn't love to face Terry Funk. Tell me John Moxley wouldn't love to face Terry Funk right now. Are you kidding? Of course he would. That'd be fun. And Michael seconded your emotion by saying Cactus Jack versus John Moxley in an unsanctioned match for sure. God versus the Usos. Yeah, that's a good one, Jamel. Very well done. Antonio Inoki versus Nakamura. Yeah. Inoki in his prime was good. He was good, for sure. Let's see. Barry Windham versus Randy Orton. I love that. I still, to this day, submit that Randy Orton stole his drop kick from Barry Windham. That's how I feel. But Barry was one of my favorite of all time. If you don't know much about Barry Windham, brother, you got to get yourself on YouTube or on WWE Network and look that dude up because you'll be glad you did. Killer Cross versus Bray Wyatt. That could still happen, Shane. Bob Backlund versus Aiden English. Rebecca with a different flavor. I like that. I apologize for not reading all of them, folks. You guys are hitting me with 1,000 of them, and I love them. Keep them coming. Anything you got off the top of your head, hit me. Scarlett versus Nancy Benoit, Battle of the Managers. I could go for that. I think they'd have an interesting match for sure. Rey Mysterio versus Andre. Can I be honest with you? I think that match would have drawn some serious money. What do you think?
I don't know.
Rey Mysterio versus Andre the Giant. Can you imagine?
Oh, God.
That big versus that big? Hey, don't scare the dog.
No, about tripped over the box.
Yeah, I was reading some Amazing Spider-Man last night. Oh. Stone Cold versus Kevin Sullivan. Oh, the Games Master versus the Rattlesnake. God, dude, I'm digging that. Well done, James. Ryan, doing great, my friend. Hope you are as well. That was the boy, folks. Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins. Rebecca, it could still happen. Don't count the chickens, baby. They haven't hatched yet. Let's see. Alundra Blaze versus Charlotte. I'm good with that. Yep. Let's see. Stone Cold versus Goldberg. Obviously, Jim. And I'm glad you said that. But yeah, for sure. And Stone Cold. And again, who can make Goldberg look better than Austin could, for sure. Harlem Heat and the Usos. That's a good one, Carlos. Very well done. Sean, I'm with you, brother. I don't care much for Shamrock and Impact either. It's not really my thing, man. Let's see. Okay. Killer Cross versus Raven. Rebecca, I like that. I like that. You guys are killing it today, man. I'm very impressed with you guys. I shouldn't say impressed. I have a great audience. You guys are awesome. Yeah. By the way, shameless plug time. Tom Clark's Main Event has a Patreon page with some pretty sweet freaking content that I want to do. I need some Patreons to make it happen. Please go to patreon.com and check out Tom Clark's Main Event. Sign up, baby. Let's watch some wrestling together. What else you got to do besides watch wrestling? You can't go see it live. You got no NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball. So listen, let's hang out, watch some wrestling, man. Make this happen. It'll be awesome. Trust me. I'll make it fun for you. Mr. Perfect versus Daniel Bryan. Man, that would be, holy cow. That match would steal the show right there, man. Let's see. Rick Rude versus Raven. Raven's name is popping up pretty good. Stone Cold versus CM Punk. Mark, we thought that might happen at some point. I'm surprised it never did, to be honest with you. I can't say surprised. Austin had been retired or whatever, and it was over. But, yeah, that would have been interesting to see, man. Kevin Owens versus The Rock. Sebastian, are we talking about The Rock now? I guess you could look at The Rock and say, how's The Rock not in his prime? Look at this guy as an animal. How about Batista? How about Batista versus Ric Flair in his prime in the NWA? Again, best match of Batista's career would have been against Ric Flair. Don't you know he would have loved that? Batista in his prime versus Rick in his prime. That would have been something to see, man. Let me think of another good one here. How about this might be different. How about this? Wahoo McDaniel in his prime from the NWA versus MJF. Stay with me here, folks. You got the punishing baby face. He's tough as nails. He's a brawler, but he can wrestle. He's a piece of leather, man. Against MJF. You got that heel that's begging off in the corner. You know what I mean? He does the eye poke. He's trying to run from him, and he's getting the crap chopped out of him. Dude, that would be a fun match to see. Don't even lie. Justin, someone hit us with Gorgeous George versus Flair. That would be fun for sure. Ming versus Tozawa. Interesting, Robbie. I like that. China versus Tessa Blanchard. Jamie, thank you for that one. That's a good one. I like that. Superstar Bill Dundee versus Fit Finlay. Yeah. Very, very similar, but I'm with that. Sebastian, looks like they're erasing Roman. Listen, it's hard for me to sit here and speculate on what in the world is going through Vince McMahon's mind. Sometimes I talk negatively about that company. I get blasted by WWE lifers who believe that WWE is the only pro wrestling game in town and don't see outside those four walls, and they blast me for that, dude. And they call me all kinds of silly names. Grow up, people. You and I both know. I'm talking directly to you right now. You and I both know that WWE is full of nonsense, okay? Nonsense. They refuse to even talk about the COVID pandemic on the air. Are you kidding me? Really? Yeah. So don't even get me started. I'm having fun with today's topic. Let's keep it rolling. Forgotten Sons versus Legion of Doom versus Demolition. There's a lot to unpack there, Rebecca. I'm not hating it. How about Forgotten Sons versus Legion of Doom? Forgotten Sons versus Demolition, maybe? Demolition as a babyface tag team, Forgotten Sons as the heels. That'd be interesting. Warrior versus The Rock. Yeah. Warrior, it's hard for me to get behind anything with the Warrior, to be honest. And again, no disrespect. The Rock versus MJF. Oh, that's a good one. MJF versus The Miz. So, Mark, I'm glad you brought that up. In my opinion, the MJF is what WWE believes that The Miz is right now. Or as a heel. And he is a heel, right? I think that he is what they believe that The Miz is. And honestly, The Miz is not MJF. No disrespect to The Miz. I like The Miz a lot. But I'm saying if the handcuffs were taken off Miz and he were allowed to just... If they just gave him a mic and said, all right, go, talk. No script, no pointers, no nothing. That's the guy you're working next week. You got 2 minutes, talk. That MJF can do it. You know he can. He's fantastic. I'm sure Miz could rise to the occasion too. They won't let him. But that's kind of how I see that. MJF versus AJ Styles could still happen. Never count those chickens. That's the theme of the day, folks, if you hadn't noticed. Daniel Bryan versus Bruno. Jim, very interesting. I'm with that. The Rock versus Rocky Johnson. Ryan, a sentimental pick, but I'm with that. Wahoo versus Tatanka or Tanaka. Two different guys. I assume you mean Tanaka? Pat Tanaka? Is that who you're talking about? Or Tatanka? MJF versus Rollins. Again, could happen. JBL versus Barry Windham. Very similar in styles, but yeah. I can't swear that it didn't happen. Right? I can't swear that it didn't happen. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't. Interesting. Jesse Ventura versus The Miz. Ooh, that's interesting. So, okay. Yeah, I don't hate that. Jesse Ventura. If I'm going with a contrast of styles, Jesse Ventura in his prime with the boa and everything, and the big loud personality and the sunglasses, the do-rag. Jesse Ventura against... give me somebody good. Somebody today. Jesse Ventura versus Jon Moxley. Jesse Ventura versus Chris Jericho. That'd be interesting. Look at you with your stupid boa. What's that supposed to be? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I don't know. I got to get Matt Hardy in this conversation at some point. Taz versus Lesnar. Don't you know Taz would have loved that? Don't know if he'd love it now, but he would have loved it at some point. Tori Wilson versus Lacey Von Erich. That'd be interesting to see. Young Bucks versus the Hardys. Justin, that did happen. Didn't it happen to Ring of Honor? I thought it did. Alma, doing fine. Today we're talking about Superstar Dream matches. Past versus present. Present versus present. Past versus past. Your favorite ones that did happen. The ones that maybe could happen still. The ones that could never happen. Impossible to happen. Give me what you got. Sandman versus Dean Malenko. Hardcore. Well, Robbie, I appreciate where you're coming from. The mix of styles. That'd be interesting to see. Sanity versus the Varsity Club. The Varsity Club. Mike Rotunda. And Rick Steiner. Interesting. And Steve Williams, right? Wasn't Steve Williams in that faction? It's good stuff, man. I love that. What's up, Will? Glad you're hanging out. Rosemary versus Darby Allin. You know, I'm not much for men versus women in pro wrestling, Shane, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. It's not really my bag. I like where your head's at, though. How about Rosemary working with Darby Allin? That'd be interesting. Undertaker in his prime versus The Fiend for the streak. Yeah. Yeah, the topic on hand today, Will, is Superstar Dream Matches, my friend. Folks, if you're just listening, if you're just now tuning in, because for some reason you just now tuned in, which is weird. Superstar Dream Matches is the topic for today. RVD versus AJ Styles. Yeah, I love that. RVD in his prime, I assume, yes. Bradshaw and Wyndham were a tag team. Yes, sir, they were. Yep, they were. Yep, they were the new Blackjacks. Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk when Punk was at the tail end of that title reign and DB was on the rise. Well, that's true, but they worked each other a few times before, for sure. Probably more than a few. Eddie Guerrero versus Rick Rude. That would have been something. Rick would have had Vicky Guerrero's face on his tights, maybe. That would have been some heat, right? Kerry Von Erich and Kevin Von Erich versus the Shield in their prime. Well, how about if you got the Shield, Kerry and Kevin and David versus the Shield? Hoorah! Right? Shut up. That's a good one. That's a really good one. AJ Styles versus Jericho. They did face off. Didn't AJ verse? Yeah, AJ lost to Chris in his first match. It was at WrestleMania, wasn't it? Didn't he lose to Chris? I think, pretty sure. Now, listen, if you're talking about now, that'd be a different match, but I get where you're coming from. Velveteen Dream versus Jesse Ventura. Again, very similar, but I can feel that. Brian Cage versus Scott Steiner in his prime. That's good. Steiner Brothers versus the Young Bucks. Danny, you're hitting it, my friend. That's a good one. It would certainly silence any Young Bucks haters if they could hang with the Steiner Brothers in their prime, because holy God, right? That'd be interesting to see, man. I'd pay to see that. Will of the Wisp versus The Fiend. Or Willow. Okay, all right, yeah. Chris Jericho versus Mr. Perfect. Superstar Billy Graham versus The Rock. Superstar Billy Graham versus Brian Cage. Justin hitting us with the ladies. Shayna Baszler versus Sami Zayn for the IC title, modern day China. Well, interesting. Again, I'm not much for men versus women. Jericho versus Ricky Steamboat. That's good. I'm digging it. Brian says Finn Balor versus Sting. I like it, Brian. You're going with the paint, aren't you? I'm not hating that. The Demon. All right, so let's talk about the Demon Finn Balor. Who'd you like to see the Demon Finn Balor face? How about the Demon Finn Balor versus Andre the Giant? That'd be fun, right? The Demon Finn Balor versus Andre the Giant. How about the heel Andre with Bobby Heenan? Is that fair? Maybe not. That's not really his prime, right? That'd be interesting to watch, man. British Bulldogs versus the Usos, excuse me. I could feel that. Street Profits versus Crying Time. Jeff, I see where you're coming from on that one, but too similar, maybe? Too similar? Maybe? I don't know. And I'm not saying that for obvious reasons. I'm saying that in terms of gimmick, right? Excuse me, folks. I'm watching some Mid-South wrestling. Or wrestling, as many of the kids say. Oh, yep. Mid-South Wrestling on WWE Network. That's true. It's very true. Boop. There we go. Puts Louisiana. Yep. There we go. Click. Let's see. Robbie says, brace yourselves, folks. Here we go. Tag team match going old school. Fritz and Kevin Von Erich versus Cowboy Bob and Randy Orton. Fantastic. That's a very different mix there, because you're talking about Fritz and Kevin in their primes, with Cowboy Bob in his prime, Randy Orton in his. That's all right. It would never happen on any planet, but I love it. I think that would be fun. I'll do you one better. Fritz and David, perhaps. Better, maybe. Steiner Brothers versus British Bulldogs. Man, that would be. You know what that'd be? That'd be a war. That'd be a flat out war to end all wars, man. That'd be crazy. How about this one? War of the Worlds. Say that real fast 3 times. Hulk Hogan versus Mike Tyson. This was years before Mike Tyson stepped into a WWE ring. And we all thought he was going to actually face Stone Cold Steve Austin. That would have been fun to watch. It would have been interesting. I don't know about fun. Interesting for sure. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good one. I can't remember how this thing turned out. Talk about old school. How about this? The Stinger. This is Show and Tell Day today on Wrestling Rumors Facebook page. Hey, thanks for hanging. Look, Tom shows you pictures. This is the one where Tom shows you pictures. And they're mostly naked, sweaty dudes. They're not all naked. Shut up. Don't be like that. Get your head out of the gutter. You're better than that. Okay. I may have run through the stack. Oh, I have not run through the stack. There's a good one. I'll hit you with it in a second. Sanity versus Ravens Flock. Danny, I'm liking that. I'm trying to think of one with Jericho, but hard to think of who he hasn't wrestled. Sebastian, well done. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because he's done a little bit of everything, hasn't he? Jericho versus Magnum TA. How about Chris Jericho versus Nikita Koloff? That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Let's see. Roman Reigns versus British Bulldog. That'd be fun. LOD versus Viking Raiders. Hello, Shri. How are you? Jinder Mahal versus Razor Ramon. They could have made that work. Terry Funk in his prime and Tommy Dreamer versus the Young Bucks in a title ladder match. That's interesting. Eddie Gilbert, hot stuff. Eddie Gilbert versus Seth Rollins. I'm liking that. Okay, Kyle's hitting us with a Demon Finn Balor. The Demon Finn Balor versus Darby Allin. Ooh, and Darby doesn't back down. Demon gets in the ring. He does that thing where he brings the lights up and Darby's just staring at him with his head down. It's fun stuff. That could still happen. Steamboat versus Jericho. Someone's hit us with that one already, but that's a good one. The Crow Sting versus Undertaker in his prime. Both men in their prime, Ryan. Let's be honest. But I like that. Of course I like it. Why not? Brian Pillman. David with the first Brian Pillman reference of the day. Brian Pillman versus AJ Styles. That'd be fun. The Berserker. The Chaotic. What did they call Brian Pillman? Loose Cannon, right? Carlos Colon versus Eddie Guerrero. Interesting, James. Interesting choice. Beer Money versus DX. Beer Money versus DX. So you're talking about Triple H and Shawn? How about Beer Money versus the New Age Outlaws? Oh, you didn't know? There you go. That'd be fun. How about the New Age Outlaws versus the Road Warriors in their prime? Yes? I think that maybe goes without saying. But yeah, good stuff, right? I'd love that. Again, contrast the styles. New Age Outlaws as the baby faces, Road Warriors as the heels, Road Warriors as the baby faces. Or either way. I think either match works, don't you? That'd be fun. Edge versus Sting. I love that, Brian. I really love that. Los Guerreros versus British Bulldogs. Yeah, I'm with that. Darby Allin versus any version of Sting. Oh, Chad. Shut up, Chad. Darby Allin versus the Surfer Sting. Hey, man, I think that might have been a better match. Or the Crow gimmick looks good, but yeah, no, you know what? I like that. The Boogeyman. Someone said Boogeyman. Who they say Boogeyman versus who? I'll find it. The Fiend versus the Boogeyman. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Come face to face. But then the bell has to ring. And then we get to see Boogeyman wrestle. I don't know. The Great Muta, who I love, by the way, versus Rey Mysterio. Hogan versus Tyson could have been made big. Yeah, it would have drawn a ton of money for sure. Mil Mascaras versus Pentagon Jr. I'm not a fan of Mil Mascaras, Alma, if I'm being honest. In my opinion, he was overrated. And plus, Pentagon would be losing that match. Straight up. AJ Styles versus David Von Erich. Yeah, I love that. That's a good one. Yeah, we haven't even talked. You know how many wrestlers we've not talked about here, folks? You have any idea how many wrestlers we've not talked about? It's insane. So what about the Lucha Bros? Who would you put Pentagon and Rey Fenix against? Past, present, or future? Lucha Brothers versus Rock and Roll Express. That'd be amazing. How about the Lucha Brothers versus the Fantastics? I need a good white meat babyface tag team. They were good. They were really, really good. Bobby Rogers, Tommy Fulton. It's good stuff. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. How about MJF versus JYD? Shut up. JYD from Mid-South versus MJF from AEW. You're welcome. It's a good one, right? Sean says Blade Runners versus Blade Runners versus the Dudley Boys, maybe? Wonder what that match would look like. That might actually not be a great match. It might just be okay. Fabulous Moolah versus Luna Vachon. I can't say that didn't happen, Robbie. Did it happen? I can't say that it didn't. Del Rio versus Mascaras. Yeah, again, I'm not a huge Mascaras fan. That's just me. MJF versus Piper would be good. That'd be fun. We haven't said Piper's name too much here. Let's hit some Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper against Roman Reigns be interesting. Against the champion Roman Reigns. That'd be something to watch. Roddy Piper against Cody Rhodes, maybe. There's some good stuff. Jericho versus Hogan. And I can't say, Will, that they didn't collide in WCW. I can't say that they did, but I can't say they didn't either. China versus Charlotte Sharia. It's a good pull. I like that. Walter, or as we in the inside say, Walter versus Brock Lesnar. I've written more than one column about Walter versus Brock Lesnar, and I love the idea of it. We'll see how it happens. Dave, thanks for hanging out, brother. If for any of you folks just tuning in for the first time today, just now, this is the Superstar Dream Match edition of Tom Clark's Main Event. And by the way, we can do this anytime you want to. We can come back to revisit this topic anytime I so feel like it, because I love this. Superstar Dream Matches that did happen, the ones that were your favorites, ones that can't happen because it's physically impossible, or ones that still have the possibility of happening today. Hit me with whatever you got. Kerry Von Erich versus Baron Von Raschke, Claw versus Claw. That's interesting to see. Raven versus Jimmy Havoc. That's good. Yeah. What's up, Belinda? How are you, my dear? Charlotte Flair versus Fabulous Moolah. Yeah. Raven versus The Fiend. Angle versus Backlund. Very, very similar there, Shane, for sure. That'd be a technical masterpiece. Hardcore Holly versus Aleister Black, Last Man Standing. Oh, my God. Hardcore Holly versus Brock Lesnar. And again, I can't say that it didn't happen. You know what I mean? I can't say that it didn't happen. How about the man who I consider to be the best in the world right now? How about Okada? Kazuchika Okada from New Japan. Who do we put in Okada against? Okada against CM Punk in his prime. Okada against the pipe bomb CM Punk. CM Punk takes all that charisma and all that publicity and all that controversy overseas across and goes to Japan and faces Okada. Parallel universe, maybe. That'd be fun. Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns. Yeah, I'm sure Roman would have loved that as well. New Day versus New Age Outlaws. Oh, that's a fun match for sure. Aleister Black versus Sting. Yep. Kenny Omega versus Macho Man. David thinking outside the box. Well done, my friend. That's a good one. Sean, I missed. Ultimo Dragon versus Relic. Nice pull there from TNA. That's interesting. Relic was wasn't Relic. God, I can't remember his name. Someone tell me what Relic's other working name was. Can't remember. Caddyshack and Terry Funk versus the Hardy Boys. Chad, shut up, Chad. Excellent, my friend. Well done. Wow, that's good stuff, man. I'm digging the crap out of that. Caddyshack and Terry Funk versus the Rock and Roll Express. I'm thinking about white meat babyface tag teams, right? Yeah, I love that. It's good stuff. God, put Cactus and Funk against anybody and watch them just burn the house down, dude. Maybe literally, right? I love that idea. Let's see. MJF and EC3 with Ric Flair as a manager versus Cody and Dustin with Dusty as a manager. MJF and EC3 versus Cody and Dustin. I don't hate that. Kyle, I love your ingenuity. I love your creativity on that. I'm liking that. Mick Foley versus Tommy Dreamer. I can't swear that it didn't happen, but I don't know that it did happen. Did it happen in ECW? Maybe not. Triple H versus Hogan. I think, Wilf, that's a given. But it's Triple H did face Hogan. Hogan won. There you go. Are you shocked? You shouldn't be. Just saying. Lucha Brothers versus the Usos. That's good. Lucha Brothers versus Fabulous One. James with the Fabulous Ones reference. Well done, my friend. Well done. Stan Lane and Steve Keirn. Fabulous Ones. Fabulous Ones versus Guerrillas of Destiny. Again, I'm just kind of throwing things together to see what would work, what wouldn't. But I don't know who would be the baby faces in that equation. Let's see. Who else have we not talked about from AEW, perhaps? Let's see. We've talked about Cody a little bit. Talked a little bit about Moxley. John Moxley versus Nikita Koloff. That'd be interesting. I don't know that Nikita would have been able to keep up with him, if I'm being honest with you. Just call it like I see it. I love Nikita. Don't get me wrong. That would have been fun, though. Let's see. Who else we got? Somebody hit me with some names here, man. Shayna Baszler. Mixed tag. Austin's going with men versus women again. Come on now. Shayna and Stone Cold versus Lita and Matt Hardy. That'd be interesting to see for sure. Lucha Brothers versus Eddie and Chavo. That would be fun. I love that. Yeah. Lucha Brothers versus PYT Express. It's good stuff. Bad News Brown versus New Jack. Oh my God. Woo! Sean just brought a fastball, man. Dude. Try pushing around Bad News Brown. Okay? Try it. See what happens. Bad News push back, and you ain't going to like it. Get it? Wow, that's good. I love that. Kurt Hennig versus Chris Jericho. Don't think it ever happened. It's a good one. Hogan versus Triple H did happen, Will, for sure. Macho Man versus Kenny. Someone else, David, believe it or not, hit us with Macho Man versus Kenny. Was that you? Young Bucks versus Mr. Fuji and Tanaka. Yeah. Piper versus Moxley. Ooh, I like that. Crazy versus Crazy, right? I think they can make that work. I know they can make that work. It's good. Who have we not mentioned? Give me somebody we've not mentioned. We mentioned a bunch of people here today. I feel like we haven't, but we really have. Here's somebody we mentioned. Superstar Dream Match, Ricky Morton versus Robert Gibson. And I think this actually happened when they turned Ricky heel and put him with, what were they calling Stacy Keibler in WCW? I can't remember what they were calling her. Can't remember. They had her like a really, really, really short skirt. Alexa or Alexis something. I can't remember. Yeah, I think that actually did happen at some point. Maybe I'm wrong. Split up the Rock and Roll Express. Do you hear what I said? You split up the Rock and Roll Express. You split up the Rock and Roll Express. Now, I will tell you this. Ricky and Robert didn't always get along. That's the truth. You spend any amount of time with anybody, male or female, whether it's in a marriage or relationship or a working relationship or a business partnership, whatever, you're going to start rubbing on each other the hard way. And it's not going to go well. So obviously they've had their ups and downs. But, they've managed to pull things together and stay together this whole time. Longest running tag team in the history of the business. That's some impressive stuff. Piper versus Ambrose, Dave? Or Piper versus Moxley? I say Piper versus Moxley. But I like where you're coming from. Walter versus the Iron Sheik. Ooh, the Iron Sheik. First time we mentioned the Iron Sheik today. That's good. China versus Baszler. Yeah, a couple different folks. Let's see. Rockers versus the Young Bucks. Too similar maybe, but I'm okay with it. The Boogie Woogie Man. Boogie Woogie Daddy. Jimmy Valiant versus John Moxley. I keep feeding MJF because he's that smarmy, cocky, arrogant heel that you want to see the crap kicked out of him. But MJF versus Boogie. Boogie comes out doing that clapping and the dancing and the stuff. And MJF goes, wait, what's this? What's this crap? Right? And he's like trying to get out of the ring and running from him. You can picture MJF running from Boogie. God, dude, shut up. That's fun stuff, man. Oh, my God. You talk about the most entertaining match on the card. That might be it right there. That might be the most fun you're going to see. Keith Lee versus Cesaro, Mark, and that could still happen. But I like where your head's going with that. How about Keith Lee versus Tully Blanchard? That'd be fun to watch. Cesaro versus... and honestly, I'm looking at it from a Booker standpoint in terms of how these two guys can make each other look good, or who could make the other guy shine the other guy up, in other words. That's the way I'm looking at it from my perspective. My perspective may not be your perspective. Kenta versus CM Punk, Kenneth. Great pull. I love that. Cesaro versus... Cesaro versus Andre the Giant. I'm saying, all that strength that guy's got, imagine him picking Andre up. I'm sure he could have done it. Dude, strong as an ox, man. For sure. You kidding? Dr. Death, Steve Williams. How about this? How about Dr. Death, Steve Williams and Terry Bam Bam Gordy together in their prime against the AOP? Oh, shut up. That's knocking down some buildings. That's King Kong versus Godzilla kind of fight right there, man. Cesaro versus Okada. Miss Lopez could still happen. I'm not hating it. I'm not hating that at all. NWO versus BWO. There you go. Beer Money versus New Day. Yep. Harlem Heat versus the Revival. Well done, David. Ooh, well done. I like that. Jake versus Kevin Sullivan. And again, I can't say that Jake versus Sullivan didn't happen, Sean. Shane says Jerry the King Lawler versus King Corbin. Loser bows to the real King. Lawler fireballs Corbin for the win. Shane not only booked the match, he booked the finish as well. Shane, well done, my friend. You win the no prize for today, sir. It's good stuff. I'm so far behind the comments. Umaga versus Lars Sullivan. It'd be great if Sullivan could have got out the gate, but he never did. Rick Martel versus Chris Jericho. Basically, this is Chris Jericho versus everyone, like someone said about CM Punk earlier. Guerrero versus Shinsuke. Darby Allin versus Billy Kidman. That's a very similar thing, but I totally get it. Lance Archer versus Sid Vicious. Someone mentioned Archer and Vicious for the first time. Interesting. I like that. Very similar, though. That's the only issue I have with it. Macho Man versus Velveteen Dream. Good idea. Mankind versus Abyss. We've hit that one for sure. Edge and Bret Hart. I think we've hit that. Von Erichs versus Missing Link and Great Kabuki. Ooh, the Great Kabuki. How about the Great Kabuki versus the Great Muta? Did that ever happen? I can't say that it did or didn't. I'm not sure. The Great Muta versus the Great Muta versus Braun Strowman. Again, I'm just thinking of contrast of styles here, man. That would have been interesting to see, for sure. The Great Muta versus Brock Lesnar. Because you would think that Brock would have just crushed him. Well, let's be honest, Brock's just going to crush him. So, let's see. Omega versus Jericho. Well, I mean, we all know that happened. It's happened more than once. So, Woman versus China. Yeah, good call. Hawk versus Animal, which I don't think ever happened. DIY versus the Rockers, Kenneth says. Kenneth, I like that. First time the DIY is mentioned today. Ciampa and, Ciampa. It's Tommaso Ciampa, by the way. So says Ciampa. Ciampa Gargano versus the Rockers. I like that. Every time you give me a good one, I try to challenge you. I don't know why I do that. It's just kind of my thing for some reason. DIY versus, and it's babyface or heel. Okay, babyface DIY versus the heel Road Warriors when they first came into the Crockett territory. That would have been interesting to see. Road Warriors would steamroll them. But still. DIY versus Anderson and Blanchard. How about DIY versus Arn and Ole? How about that? Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy could still happen. Rebecca, you too. Thank you, my dear. Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle. Yep, for sure. Keith Lee versus JYD. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with that. Luchasaurus versus Lance Archer is probably going to happen, Sean, at some point. Flair versus Lethal in TNA. Yeah. Oh, so you're saying that was your favorite. Yeah. Or was that your favorite? I think they did face off, didn't they? Maybe. They at least threw hands against each other. Sandman is Prime versus Dolph Ziggler ambulance match. That's interesting. Hey, I'm not going to hate on it. At least you're trying to be creative. That's good. Keith Lee versus Cesaro, which is probably going to happen at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. G.O.D. versus Gordian Williams. Ooh, James, shut up. That's a good one, man. Holy cow. Yeah. I'm just trying to think about G.O.D. being that heel tag team who they could shine up. You know what I mean? G.O.D. versus the Hardy Boys. That would have been fun. G.O.D. versus Edge and Christian. How about that? Tell me this isn't fun. You're lying. Stop. This is fun and you know it. The Undisputed Era versus the Hart Foundation. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Let's see. Again, Miss Lopez, I'm not hating your idea, but Sullivan couldn't even get out the gate. That dude, talk about career suicide. Lars Sullivan, man, for sure. Great Muta versus Nakamura. Jim. Whew. We don't talk enough about Shinsuke on this show. That's a crime. That's my fault. I love Shinsuke. Are you kidding me? Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ric Flair. Ric Flair versus the world. He's that good. Okay. How about Shinsuke Nakamura versus Nick Bockwinkel for the AWA World Championship? Nick could work with anybody. Shinsuke is very good. That would have been a contrast of styles, to say the very least. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. I'm trying to think of someone that's the antithesis of Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. Who's the antithesis of Gorgeous Jimmy right now? Somebody that's firm, somebody's tough. Sheamus versus Gorgeous Jimmy. God, that's weird. I don't even know if that would work, but that's fun, right? Elias versus Jeff Jarrett. Let me guess, Shane, guitar on a pole match, WCW style. Darby versus Finn, true. Jeff Hardy versus New Jack versus Sabu. Oh my God, this is a homicide match. How about take New Jack out of there, Colin? Just say Sabu versus Jeff. I'd pay to see that. Mexicools versus Lucha House Party. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, basically the same gimmick, but I'm okay with it. Beer Money versus Harlem Heat. Well done. James Ellsworth versus Gilbert. Why not? Why not at the end of the day, right? Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee versus Ole and Arn Anderson. Interesting. Hollywood Blondes versus Omega and Page. Ooh. So let's talk about Adam Page. Adam Page. You could always say Adam Page versus Barry Windham. Too close, maybe. Hangman Page is very good, man. I don't know if the guy gets enough credit for how good he is, to be honest with you. Let's see, who else? Hangman Adam Page versus Ole Anderson. That'd be interesting. Ted DiBiase. We'll go with the $1 Million Man version of Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase versus Roman Reigns. Everyone's got a price, Roman. Name it. Right? Interesting. It's kind of a bad time to be talking about Ted, right? With all the stuff going on with that guy. Yikes. The little good guy on AEW versus... You're talking about Marco Stunt. Well, Sean will make him look like $1 billion for sure. Nakamura versus Great Muta. I think someone hits with that already, but I love it. Triple threat match. Ricky Morton versus Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Dina Bravo, Chris Benoit. Precious and Sunshine versus Lita and Trish. Ooh, Shane going old school all the way. I'm loving that. AOP versus Dudley Boys no DQ match. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. Let's see how... You know what? Yeah. AOP versus the GOD. Smash Mouth all the way. Four Horsemen versus DX. Good pull. I like it. Hangman Page versus Tully Blanchard. Yeah. That'd be kind of very... Would that be too similar to Magnum versus Tully? Maybe not. I'm going to kick myself when we get off the air today because I know there's going to be some names that I neglected to mention. I'm sure there will be. Let's see. I think I showed you everything I was going to show you here today. Pretty sure? Yeah, I think I did. That's the magazines I was going to show you today. I just got a little stack out the box. Yes. See, Imperium versus the Heart Foundation. Interesting. Heart Foundation as heels versus Imperium. I'm not hating it, Kenneth. I'm just thinking about contrasting of styles and if that would be more for dominant to the company. You know what I mean? Like making a statement. I don't hate it. Don't get me wrong. Macho Man versus MJF. Again, another great one. Brody Lee, for the first time mentioned today. Brian Pillman versus Brody Lee. That's interesting. How about this? First ever Giant Battle Royal. Big Show, El Gigante, you lost me there. Giant, Great Khali, you lost me again. Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, Sid Vicious, Undertaker, Braun Strowman, Big Cass, and Giant Silva. That would definitely be a Giant Battle Royal. Talk about reinforcing the ring, man. Pentagon versus AJ Styles. Ooh, could still happen. Never say never in this business, man. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Pentagon versus... I would be interested... I mean, put Pentagon versus a guy much bigger than him. Pentagon versus Brock Lesnar. Pentagon versus Braun Strowman, maybe. I don't know. I'm just thinking about, he's wild man. He's unpredictable. He's reckless. He'll do anything it takes versus a guy that supposedly can't be beaten. That's unbeatable. I feel like there's names that we're not mentioning here today, but I could be wrong. Maybe we've hit on all the top names at this point. Is there anybody that we haven't hit on? Anybody that we've left out? Anybody at all? That's a good one. Dude, I could do this for hours and days, weeks, and months even. Arn Anderson versus Jon Moxley. Yeah, I'm loving that for sure. How about WWE versus Impact versus AEW versus New Japan versus AAA? Wow, that's a huge show, man. Evolution versus Undisputed Era. I like that, yeah. The Clique versus the Horsemen. Ooh. So Arn and Tully, Rick and Barry. Yes. Against Hall and Nash, Hunter and Sean. Whew. Wow. That'd be a match, dude. That's something to think about. Eddie and Owen. Yep. Von Erichs versus... Man, I'm all about the Von Erichs, in case you haven't noticed. I love the Von Erichs. Vincent Mann versus Jerry Jarrett. Mark, maybe AJ will be retiring soon. Boy, if he retires, man, he looks like $1 million. He still does. Guy's in phenomenal shape. Pun intended. About the most annoying women's tag team ever. Lay Cool versus the Iconics. And brother, Tom's got earplugs in the entire way. Mystico versus... Mystico versus Hector Guerrero. How about that? That'd be fun. That's where the styles being similar could be really, really, really fun to watch for sure. Trying to think about who else we could do that's like very, very similar styles, high octane, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Toji Yamamoto versus Mr. Fuji. Yeah. Danny, what's up, bro? We're about to take this thing home, man, because this has been, again, I could stay here all day and do this. This has been freaking awesome. But, yeah, so, let's see. Murdoch and Dusty versus G.O.D. Interesting. George Animal Steel versus Mankind. I don't hate that at all. Sting versus Drew McIntyre, right? Interesting. Bayley versus Talia Valkyrie. Could still happen. Yeah, man. All right, so folks, I think we are actually past the hour. Moxley versus Kevin Sullivan. I could just keep reading these things all day. Listen, man, I want to thank everybody for joining us here today. We hope that you still enjoy the format. I want to please encourage you to go to my Patreon site. I got some cool content, paid content that I want to start churning out, but I can't do it without an audience. And I'd love for some of you folks to sign up so we can get the ball rolling on that. Go check it out. I promise you I'll make it worth your time and your dollar. I guarantee that. And I guarantee you'd have fun too. Thanks again for watching, man. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, check me out on Patreon. Follow the page, Tom Clark's Main Event. If you don't follow it, please give it a follow on Facebook, and I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here, man. Listen, thanks everybody for hanging out as always. Thanks for taking the time. I do appreciate you guys hanging in there supporting me through everything. It means loads to me. So hope everybody has a good weekend. Please stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you next Friday. We'll see you next time, in fact, on Tom Clark's Main Event.